Okay, so I mentioned that in this conception phase, in this strategy analysis phase, right, where we are still trying to come up with an idea that would lead to a project that would go through the SDLC, there are 5 components to strategy analysis. The first one is defining the business need. You first define your business need. After you define your business need, then you do gap analysis. You try to figure out what you need to do to solve that problem, right? Where you are and what you need to fix or buy or improve in order to get to where you want to be. That is gap analysis. Right? So figuring out the difference. Then you move to defining the solution strategy. Which approach, the solution approach, which approach would you use to solve the problem? Then the next step is you scope the solution. You say, okay, this is the solution that I think will fit us. These are the things I will not do. These are the things I will do. Then you go to the last step where you make a business case with all your findings. So we are still in that first part where you are defining the business need. And I mentioned that there are several strategies, right? There are several strategies you can use to define a business need. One of them is benchmarking, and I explain what benchmarking means. Right? Who can remind me what benchmarking means? Who can quickly remind us what benchmarking means? Please unmute, feel free to talk. Abolore, what do you think benchmarking means?
That is like setting a criteria where you compare, or how to put it. I actually mixed up, but I know to benchmark would be like having a standard you set to look up to or compare what you're able to do, where like they were supposed to work towards achieving a particular goal. Am I still here? Hello? Hello, can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Right, yes, I wasn't sure. There was
Okay.
a long silence after that.
Yes, yes. There's a quick technical issue, but I've resolved it. Okay. So, sorry, can you repeat what you said?
It's like setting a criteria or a standard we intend to work towards.
Okay. Okay. So yes, that's what benchmarking means. You use an example, you use someone else or something else or some other organization or a different enterprise, right? A different product as your standard, and then you compare what you're doing to it. You compare what your organization is doing to that thing, product, entity, enterprise, whatever it is. And that enterprise or entity becomes your benchmark, right? And then we talked about brainstorming. We said brainstorming is essentially gathering people with the knowledge, people you think would have the kind of knowledge you need, gathering them in a room. That room may be virtual, it may be a physical room, and then rubbing minds together to come up with either identify the problems or come up with a solution to something, right? So using the mind of other people. It may be one person, it may be more than one, it may be 100 people, it may be virtual, right? Or it may be physical, where everybody is co-located in the same place, right? Or it may be something you do via Zoom. Then we talked about business rules analysis. They said you are looking at the organization's rules, how the organization has set themselves to operate, and then you compare what they are doing to the standard they set for themselves to see if they are following it. And that can be a way to discover a business need. In this phase, what you are trying to figure out is what the business needs. Is that clear? Please mute yourself. Is everyone muted? Okay. Okay. Then we talked about focus group, where you gather likely consumers of a product or people that will be affected by a product. And then you ask them questions based on something you already have in mind. Then we talked about functional decomposition, where I said you are breaking down a task, a huge task or a huge product or project or problem into small bits. And in all this, what you are still trying to do is identify a business need or the business need. Maybe needs more than one that the business needs to tackle, that they need to address, right? And then we really dwelt on root cause analysis. And one of the strategies we looked at was the 5 whys technique, right? We looked at the 5 whys technique yesterday, and we used it to look at a problem, right? The problem of computers breaking down, right? And we said, imagine someone has, or imagine you're in a boardroom and the CFO says they're having problems with their computer. And we walked through that using 5 whys. There was something I did not mention yesterday because I wanted you to be ready for it. Now, we have gone through the 5 why technique. I have somebody sending me a message. Can't hear. Can everybody else hear me?
Yes.
Andrew, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Okay. So I'm a bit low. Okay. Okay. No problem.
Yes, very
So
low.
give me a sec. Let me fix that. Thank you for letting me know. I'll fix that now. Just let me pause this recording. So we looked at the 5 whys yesterday and we applied it to this example where we said a CFO has come to say their computers are breaking down at work and slowing down productivity. And then we asked, we used the 5 why technique, right? We used the first why. So why are the computers breaking down? And so me and Andrew will do it again now, if you don't mind. So you ask me why, I'll give you answer, and then we'll go down to the last.
Okay.
Yes. So again, the CFO, computers are breaking down at work and slowing down our productivity.
Why are the computer breaking down?
Okay. Well, the computers are very old and the software is not compatible with newer systems.
And why do we have old computer system?
It's because new computers and software have not been purchased.
And why have we not bought new computer and software?
The IT budget is just too small to support regular upgrades. That's why.
Why do we have small IT budget?
It's because the manager in charge of IT has not made a case for a budget increase.
And why has the manager not made a case for increase?
Well, the manager is new and has not been trained in management skills.
And why is the manager new and has not been trained in management skill?
Exactly. That's where I wanted to get to today. That's what I want us to look at. Now, imagine you ask me that question, why is the manager new? Well, the old guy that was there before has been fired.
And why did the company fire the old guy?
He slapped the CEO's wife.
And why did he slap the CEO's wife?
Do you think you should still go on like that?
Thank you. You get where I'm driving at. You have to gauge and figure out when it gets to a point I like to call non-ya. That is none of your business, short form of none of your business, right? So remember, keep your goal in mind. Your goal is you want to know what's up with the computers and get to the root cause. You need to be tracing as you are asking these plenty questions, this why, using different strategies. You need to trace and figure out, when is this thing becoming none of my business? When am I overstepping my bounds so that I can stop? That's why the people that will be in this space have to be matured. Doesn't have anything to do with age. Smart business analysts, right? So as you are asking the questions, you need to know when you are encroaching on something you should not encroach on. You know the politics of boardroom, right? Where maybe now you are asking too much question that will start exposing somebody's problem. You don't want to go there. You want to keep your focus on the IT problem. So when you start asking, why is the manager new? You should already think before you ask, well, does this thing, does it fit the profile of non-ya? None of your business. If you say, why is the manager new? The response you will get does not help you. You have gotten the root cause, which is this manager has not been trained. That's the one that has to do with computers. But why the manager is new does not have anything to do with computers. So you have to gauge and be wary of that, of the tendency to overstep your bounds in a boardroom setting. And so what you would find many experienced people do is when you ask the question to a point, right, and you see that, well, I'm not sure if it's the end of the matter. You understand? I'm not sure it's the end of the matter, but at the same time, I don't want to overstep my bounds. You just say, you know what, CFO, let's talk about this thing offline. So you don't embarrass the CFO or embarrass yourself in the boardroom. You say, let's talk about this thing offline. And then when you sit down in his office, you can now be gisting. So the manager, so the guy is a new guy. I thought Williams was in charge of IT before. So what happened to Williams? Oh, well, you know, that discussion now does not have anything to do with the technology. So you take that offline, but you have to gauge and know when you are encroaching on the territory of non-ya, none of your business. So I wanted to point that out today before we move on. So let's continue from a sensitive point we stopped at. I said the whole essence of defining the business problem or the business need, which is this part of the work, right? This part of strategy analysis, is that you want to identify two things. You want to identify the problem, and from the problem, you identify the goal, right? The goal that the organization now needs to pursue. You want to identify the problem and goal. Those two are combined in the problem statement you write. There's this popular saying that you already know, which is knowing the problem is half of the solution. Many people go around, they don't know the problem, right? Or what is wrong with them, or what is wrong with an aspect of their life. And once you don't know that, then you can't fix it, right? So knowing the problem, as they say, is half of the solution. Business analysts have taken that to heart, right? So identifying that root cause problem starts giving you an idea of what a solution can look like. Those two, that problem that you have identified, that you are sure of, and then that that thing that appears like an idea of the solution is what forms your business need. And in the example, the exercise we did yesterday, the business need we formed was the problem of getting to work late is affecting the CTO, that CTO that wants to buy Ferrari. The impact is the CTO may lose his job. A successful solution would help the CTO keep his job. That was what we arrived at yesterday as the problem statement. So in this problem statement, you can see two things. You can see the business problem. The problem of getting to work late is affecting the CTO. The impact is the CTO may lose his job. That is the problem. Then you can also see the goal. The goal now is, how do we solve this problem, right? So a successful solution will help the CTO keep his job. So we have an idea now of what a successful solution will be like. We don't know the successful solution yet. We have not specified it, we have not defined it, but at least we have an idea. So now you have a problem statement or a business need, combining the real business problem and the goal that will pursue. So your business need is essentially your business problem plus business goal. That business problem is what helps us understand the current state of the organization. The business problem is what business analysts call the current state. So now we know where the organization is. At least it's helping us get a sense of what the current state is. It doesn't give us a full picture, but it tells us, okay, this is where we are now. Where we are right now as a business, maybe we cannot do some things, and that's the problem. And a solution will be, we want to do those things. So that becomes our business goal, right? Where we are now as a business, maybe we cannot deliver goods around our province or around our state. So if people order online, we cannot deliver, or we cannot mass produce, we need machines. So our goal then will be being able to deliver, being able to mass produce whatever we're producing to reach everybody in the province. So that goal is our desired future state. That goal, that business goal, is our desired future state. So for short, you just say future state. So the problem where we are at right now, is the current state. Where we would like to be, which is no problem, solution has arrived, everything is working, is our desired future state. That current state is also called as is. The future state is called to be. So as it is now and how we want it to be. Do you understand it? So as is and to be. So you hear business analysts talk about, oh, I have elicited the as is. I've sort of documented the as is, or the current state, if you want to be formal. I've documented the current state of the organization. So I know where they are now and the problem they are facing. Then you now create a design, a representation of the future state, meaning where they want to be Then the next step is, how do they get there? How they get there is through the solution that you will develop. And I'm using development broadly here. It may be a solution that you will buy, right? Solution that maybe they already have that you will adapt, or something that you will repurpose. Right? So it may be something they already have. If not, it may be something that they will develop from scratch. Maybe something that they will buy. Maybe something they will rent. But that thing that will help them go from their current state, that is the problem, to their future state is the solution. And that's what business analysts do. They help deliver that solution. But to deliver a solution, they first have to help identify the problem and also identify the desired future state. Okay. So when you hear current state, now you would remember that current state is just talking about where the organization is right now, the as-is, right? And that's where there's problem, right? What their problem entails, the as-is. Then when you hear future state, you know that's where the organization wants to be. So a representation of where that problem does not exist anymore, where the problem has been solved, that is there to be. Okay. So let's round off this part of strategy analysis by reminding ourselves that strategy defines the most effective way to apply the capabilities of an enterprise in order to reach a desired set of goals and objectives. Desired set of goals and objectives. You see, that goal that I talked about, that I said business goal is the future state. Business problem is the current state. That future state that is not clear, because it can't be clear at this point, right? You will now start to refine it. Even in the strategy analysis space, you start to refine it by asking more questions. You make that future state clearer. Okay. So that goal, you make it clearer. A goal that is clear becomes what we call objective. When the goal is clearer, it's specific, then it becomes an objective or several objectives if you can break it down. So you start to clarify the goal. We started from, the business goal, a successful solution will help the CTO keep his job. What does that mean? Right? What does that mean? How would we know when the solution is successful? So a business analyst will now take this statement and start asking questions from those C-suite executives. How would we know when the solution is successful? Right? What will a successful solution look like? And by asking those questions, the business analyst is trying to turn that vague goal into objectives, into clear statements that anybody can understand and then implement. So that when we implement it, we will know when we are meeting what these C-suite executives want, what the CEO, CFO, CTO, all those people, what they want. We'll know when we are meeting it. Because if we just go with this vague goal, we won't know whether we are meeting anything or not. So in this space, that chief business analyst will now rub minds further with those, what's it called, the CTO or whoever is sponsoring the need. That is the person that is championing it, that came to the boardroom to say, oh, I have this need. You will now rub minds. You may set up another meeting with him to start asking questions, right, to clarify this goal. Now we know the problem, yes, but what does a good solution look like to you? You may not know the technical terms. You may not know how it will be developed or how we'll go about it, but we have to know when we meet your need. You as the champion of the problem, as the person that said there's a problem, we have to know when we have solved it. So what does that solution look like to you? That's what a business analyst in this space would ask and clarify. And as you are clarifying it, you are turning that goals into objective. Now, we're still talking about strategy, but I just want to mention that strategy and strategy analysis does not necessarily have to mean you are looking at a big problem that affects an entire organization. That's why I use the word enterprise here. It may be just for a division, just maybe even a department. It may be as big as an entire region, right? The region of West Africa or something. It may be for a single product that we are strategizing on. It may even be something smaller than a product, just a single iteration. That's something a product we are still developing. We just created a small part. It may be just for that we are strategizing. So strategy doesn't have to be for something big that covers the whole organization. It may be department, it may be unit, a unit inside a department. It may be for a single product that we're doing all this meeting and trying to understand what the problem is. Why is that product not selling, for example, right? And how can we get it to sell? So that may be why we are strategizing. So you continue to refine goals until they are SMART. And SMART here is an acronym for specific, until the goals are specific. You can't start your, let's assume, 1-year project based on something vague. That when you finish, the CFO or the CTO, whoever is championing the project or the problem may come and say, you didn't meet my need. You just did what you thought was right. So I can't accept this. You just wasted the organization's money. So you want to clarify until it is specific. Not only does it have to be specific, it has to be measurable. So you clarify until it is measurable, until we can know exactly, right? We can measure whether we have met it, whether we have surpassed it, whether it's remaining a little to get there, right? Until we can know, until it is measurable, until it is achievable. So maybe what the CFO has in mind is something that is impossible right now. Right? We'll continue to ask him questions until we find a compromise, something that is achievable. Until that solution he has in mind is relevant to the business. Because the solution may not even make sense, may not even be relevant to the problem he's saying. Right. So take the Ferrari case. There's hold up, there's something, and your own solution immediately is Ferrari. That, okay, that's the problem. Just get me a Ferrari, and that is both the problem and the solution to all my problems. But when we trace down, we saw that it's because this person comes to work late. That's the real problem. And there are multiple solutions to that. So until you make sure it is very relevant, whatever goal this champion of the problem has in mind has to be relevant. It has to also be time bounded. When does he want it, or when does she want the solution to be delivered? Right. When does that person want the solution to be delivered? So those are the considerations. So at the end of everything, this part of the task where you are defining the business need, you have gotten the business need. Yes. You now, inside that business need, you have the problem and you have the goal. There's still a little work you will do, which is clarifying the goal, clarifying it, making it smarter by using this acronym, making it specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bounded. When you have that, yes, then you can move. That's when you can move to the next stage of strategy analysis. So let's look at an example, though, of a goal. Let's say the goal is, say, for a university or for an organization like ours, to increase the number of students they have. That is the goal. It's vague. They just want to increase the number of students. the BA will now continue to work with whoever is championing that goal to clarify, to make it smarter. You can now refine that goal into something like increase number of students in the 25 to 55 age bracket by 40% within 6 months. Right? So that goal now has become smarter. It has now become, we want to increase the number of students in the 25 to 55 year age bracket by 40%. So since this person has now told us it's 40%, we will know when we are successful. And he's saying within 6 months. So we now know that there is a time frame that we can work with. So this goal, that goal of just increasing number of students, has become smarter. It is now measurable. It is now time bounded. It is relevant. It is specific, right? We know the students we want to increase. A student with age group 22 or 25 to 55. Those are our target market. Right? So that's how you refine goals. When you have something clear, then you can proceed to the next phase. So what we have looked at is define business need. We said there are several strategies, there are several ways: brainstorming, benchmarking, root cause, right? So all these ways can be used to define business need. Now, from that business need, we'll get the business problem and the business goal. So this business problem also represents the current state or our as is. The business goal represents that desired future state or our to be. Right. So all this coming out from the business need. So now we know the business need. We know the current state, right, of the business, and we know the goal, the future state. We'll refine this goal and make it smarter before we accept it, using the acronym SMART. But the goal tells us the future state. Once we have this, the next step is to assess capability gap. So we have finished step one. Assess capability gap. Now, assessing capability gap is just figuring out that can the business meet its need using the existing structure, people, processes, and technology it has. That's the question you are asking by assessing capability gap. You are just checking that we know the current state of the business. What do we need to do to get to that desired future state? Right. In some cases, maybe you don't really need to do much. In some cases, there may be several things to do. So this part of the project, this part of strategy analysis is where you discover the gap and start coming up with an action plan, which is really your strategy. This part is very important. Again, of course, number one, you have to make sure you are solving the right problem. So that's the most important thing. If not, every other thing you are doing is just waste of time. Right? If you have the wrong problem, the foundation is wrong. If you like build 20-story building on it or 5 billion story building, if the foundation is wrong, everything is still rubbish. Right? So, but let's assume you have done your job well, you have gotten the root cause, you have gotten the real problem. and you have your need refined. Everything is clean and clear. At this point, you want to discover the gap. What is missing? What do we need to do to be delivering our product across the province or state? All right. What is missing for us? Gap. Then how can we go about filling that gap? How can we go about resolving that? Then you start coming up with action plan. So that's gap analysis. You are asking, well, can this business meet its need using the existing structure, people, processes, and technology it has? So gap analysis, right? You can use a template like this, for example, to tabulate the current state, the future state, and the gap you think exists between current state and future state. So imagine in this case, you are breaking down whatever problem the organization has into different individual problems or units. So you are functionally decomposing it. Then you are checking, okay, if you don't have any idea how to do that, you can use something like this word where this is default, right? But if it's a problem you understand, maybe a website, you can start saying, okay, maybe home page. This one may be home page. This one may be about us page, right? So you look at the current state of the home page, right? What's wrong with the home page? The future state, what we want it to look like. What is the difference between where it is and what we want it to look like? You write it down. Then you now say, what steps do we take to resolve this gap, to close this gap? You write it down. And that's how you document the gap of any business need that you have identified. So you can break that need again down. If you don't know how to break it down, this typical approach we use is just to say, okay, maybe something you can apply the what, where, when, who, how to, right? Some of these may not be relevant. It means you won't use them. In some cases, it may just be two of these that will be relevant to you and use them. But you get that what you want to find out is what is the current state of maybe this product or this enterprise or this department? What is the future state we want? What is the difference between these two? And what actions do we need to take to close this difference, to resolve this difference? That is what gap analysis is about. So there are two key ways people do gap analysis. One is document analysis. Who has ever done document analysis? Has anyone ever done document analysis? Okay. Now, let me tell you what document analysis is. And you will see that all of us, we have all done document analysis. You should know that in business analysis, we use big terms to refer to simple things because business analysis is mainly common sense and open-mindedness. So behavior and common sense. So we use these big terms because you have to charge money for what you are doing. And if you just tell people, if you explain it in layman terms, then people will say, oh, this is something anybody can do. So we use big terminologies like document analysis. Document analysis means searching printed document or document online. So reading through document. So has anybody here ever read through a document before?
Yes.
Thank God. We have all read through documents.
Yes.
Exactly. We have all read through documents. Right? So if you have read a manual before, if you have read a textbook to figure out something before, that is document analysis. But a business analyst will not come and tell you, oh, I want to go and read the company manual. That's boring. You will write it in your report or in your calendar that I'm doing document analysis. So they say, wow, this person is working. because they don't understand what you are doing. But what you are doing is reading. You are reading up on things. And you still have to be paid for that because you are working, you are reading up on things. So we call it document analysis. So that's one way you assess capability gaps. You research to find, right, what the gap is and how to meet the gap. Documents, research documents, online, the company's documents, whatever document you need to figure out the gap and how to mitigate, how to resolve it. But another very, very common approach used. Yes, Taiwo. Hello, Taiwo. I think maybe you raised your hand to say you have done document analysis.
No, I was just answering that I've done document analysis.
Exactly. I was surprised when you didn't raise your hand. Right? We have all done document analysis. All right. So at least now that becomes part of your vocabulary. So when you are reading, you don't say I'm reading something or I'm studying. I'm doing document analysis because you're a business analyst. This has to go on your CV. As I'm talking, some of you should immediately start putting some of these things in your CV as things you have done. Because your potential employer wants to know if you can do document analysis. So can you read document and understand it? Yes, you can do document analysis. So another technique that is common, fancy, useful, but we already know it, is SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Right? So you do SWOT analysis to understand the strength of an organization or an enterprise. So it may be a department, it may be a whole company, it may be a whole region of companies. You want to understand their weaknesses, you want to understand the opportunities they have and the threats to that organization or to that product. Maybe it's just a single product, a detergent, clean, or what they call it, Ariel, one singular product. You want to know what are the strengths of this product, what is it doing well, what are the weaknesses, what are the opportunities that we can capitalize on to make sure this product sells more, what are the threats to this product. Right? So SWOT analysis identifies how current capabilities and limitations match up against the influencing factors of threats, external factors like threats and opportunities. So you want to know how the current capabilities and limitations of an organization matches up against their opportunities and threats. If the matchup is very good, then yes, we're in a good place. If the matchup is not very good, then we may need to reconsider carrying on with that product or come up with a strategy to make everything work better in our favor. So maybe we should resolve some of the threats or capitalize on some of the opportunities or improve our strength or reduce our weaknesses. So SWOT analysis is another way, one very popular way companies assess their capability gap. Again, the company wants to know, right, what is our capability? What are we lacking? What is stopping us from meeting from getting our future state, our desired future state? So SWOT analysis is the key tool used here. In SWOT analysis, you're essentially saying, what do we do well, right? So strength, weakness, opportunity, strength. What do we do well? What are the unique resources we can draw on? What do others see as our strength? I like this image better. This one says, you can look at things your company, you can replace company with product, you can replace it with department, depending on the level of analysis you are doing. So things your company do well, qualities that separate you from your competitors, those are your strengths. Internal resources such as skilled, knowledgeable staff, right, that you have, they are your strengths. So you are looking at your organization or your product and you're identifying the strengths. You document all those strengths here in this column. Then after looking at your strengths, you start exploring your weaknesses. What are the weaknesses you have? So things your company lacks. What are the things that this company or this product lacks or is not doing well? What are the things our competitors are doing better than us? What are our limitations in terms of resources? What is unclear about our USP, about our unique selling proposition? What is not clear? What's not clear about our vision, about our objective, about our goal? Those are weaknesses, and there can be many more. Then you start looking next at opportunities. You start documenting what are the opportunities we have. So you start looking at things like underserved markets, underserved markets for specific products. Right? Are they underserved markets for our products? Are they markets that we have not exploited or explored yet? You are producing something in a part of Nigeria and it's doing well, but it's not, you feel the market is saturated, but that thing may be lacking in Ghana. Maybe there's no one producing that product. So that's an underserved market that you can take as an opportunity to expand your revenue, to increase your revenue, right? So it may be few competitors in your area. That may be an opportunity. It may be emerging needs for your products or services. That may be another opportunity. Maybe there are needs that are emerging, needs that will come up in the future, right, for your products and services. Those who have relatives, maybe in Nigeria, for example, we hear of how this new currency situation has created a crazy opportunity for those with POS, where people are now buying Naira with Naira. So emerging need, the need came about because someone just decided to ban old currency without making sure new currencies were readily available to people, right? So needs can emerge. It may be needs that you are projecting that will come up. So that is an opportunity you can capitalize on. So imagine if somebody had saw that need will arise, they may have stocked up on POS and new currencies as much as they can to just make as much money. So imagine it. Press, media coverage of your company can be an opportunity for you. Can be an opportunity for you. Threats. Right? So, sorry, give me 1 minute. Okay. So are there threats, potential threats to your business, to the product, to your department, to your company? So it may be emerging competitors, maybe new people are coming. It may even be a new technology that is being developed that will change the way business is done and make other people be able to get into your line of business quickly. That is a threat. It may be changing policy. Maybe there's going to be regulatory changes. Right? Government is going to change a policy. That may be a threat to your business. It may be negative press. That may be a threat, potential negative press or pending negative press. It may be changing customer attitudes. So threats may be diverse. Right? So during SWOT analysis, you're supposed to identify all this. There's this template I like. Right? the creators of this template did was to break it down, break the SWOT into boxes or rectangles where you can just document the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of whatever it is you're analyzing, whatever enterprise, maybe it's or product you're analyzing. So one way people do this is they just many times brainstorm, right? And they start asking questions like, what do we do well? What do our customers say we do well, right? So they just have all these templated questions, and then they start asking participants in a brainstorming session. And then they fill out these boxes with the answers. So that's one way people do it. They use brainstorming to do stuff like this. You could also use focus group to fill out these rectangles, these boxes, to identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Right? So, but this is one way people do SWOT analysis. So you end up with a result like this, right? Maybe you are doing SWOT analysis for a restaurant. You may say, okay, our strength is that we are located in a well-trafficked area. We have a good reputation among the local community. Our menu is seasonal and locally sourced. Those are our strengths. What are our weaknesses? Well, our cost is higher than comparable chain restaurants. We have a single location, which means we have limited reach. So our cost is higher than comparable restaurants, single location, modest advertising budget. We don't have too much money to advertise. And we're not currently using food delivery apps. Right. So those may be the weaknesses. Then you start jotting down the opportunities. What are the opportunities that exist for us? So it may be growing interest or support for locally sourced ingredients, which is something we do, right? Locally sourced. And now there's growing interest in locally sourced ingredients. So that's good for us. That's an opportunity we can exploit. Seasonal menu, keep things fresh and interesting. That's an opportunity. Potential for growth via food delivery apps and technology. That's an opportunity. What are the threats? Well, intensifying competition from established chain restaurants may be a threat. Maybe chain restaurants are beginning to do the kind of things we are doing. They are beginning to make the kind of food we are making. That may be a threat. Uncertain economic environment may be a threat. Inflation, cost of gas and cost of producing what we produce may have increased astronomically. Right? So that may be a threat. Rising cost of ingredients. So you end up with a table like this. Right. So like I mentioned, one way people do, in fact, the most common way people do this, or business analysts will do it, will be brainstorming, right? Or focus groups. So any sort of workshop they can do where they gather people together virtually or physically. And then they start asking questions and then filling in the responses into these boxes. And that will be how they come about their the result of their SWOT analysis. So now let's take it up multiple levels. Let's see an advanced way to do this. Now, why are we looking at an advanced way? And we're looking at an advanced way because many times the people you would want to brainstorm with, right, may be blind to the problem themselves. Members of an organization may not be able to see what they are doing wrong. So there may be more strengths that people have not listed. There may be more weaknesses that they have not noticed. There may be more opportunities that they don't know. In fact, sometimes they may not even be able to think about these opportunities. So your brainstorming sessions may not be fruitful, may not be as fruitful as you want. They may not be able to identify the threats well enough. Okay, so these are the limitations to just brainstorming or gathering internal people and saying, okay, I'll ask you a few questions and you give me answers and I'll use the answers to populate a SWOT analysis table and I'll call it a day. So that's why I want to show you an advanced method. Now, what you have to remember is when we're looking at the definition of SWOT analysis, we said SWOT analysis identifies current capabilities and limitations, so strengths and weaknesses, right? And how these strengths and weaknesses match up against influencing factors of opportunities and threats. What this is telling us is SWOT analysis is looking at what you can do within your own power, right? And the things that are not within your power, but are affecting you, the things you cannot necessarily control, but are affecting you. So two things: your internal capability, what is within your power, right? So your strength is within your power. Those are things that are internal to you or to your enterprise or to an organization. Your weaknesses are also internal to you. They are intrinsic to you. They're a part of you. Then there are some external things you don't necessarily have control over, or you have very little control over, but may be affecting you no matter what you do. Those are the external environment. So there are two parts to SWOT analysis: internal capability and external environment. So external factors that may be affecting you or your product or your organization. So rather than doing a brainstorming session to fill up all these boxes, right, to identify what this content should be, you can now take individual techniques that look at internal capability, and maybe a different technique that specializes on looking at external environment or factors. Right. So you use one technique to drill down into internal capabilities to help you, to guide you on how to make sure you cover all your bases for internal capabilities, so strengths and weaknesses. Internal, right? Then you use another technique to explore opportunities and threats, external. Right? Those techniques that are specialized in identifying and covering everything about external, you use them. Then you use the one for internal, and that would help you get a better SWOT analysis where you are not leaving anything, you are not forgetting anything. Right? So that will help you stand out from the crowd. So one of such technique that you can use for, one key technique for identifying internal capability is what we call the resource audit. Resource audit. Now, the advantage here is because this is like a template of, just like the Ishikawa thing, the Ishikawa model or fishbone diagram is a template that already tells you what you should look out for. Right? So you don't need to be bothering your head. You don't need to worry about whether your stakeholders or the people you are brainstorming with cannot remember everything, because this becomes a template that you can use to ask them questions in a brainstorming session to make sure you cover every internal capability you need to make sure you are developing your SWOT diagram or your SWOT model well. You are using your SWOT model well, right? So resource audit is one critical technique you can use for the internal capability. So it's used to analyze key areas of internal capability in order to identify the resources that will enable business change and those that will undermine or prevent such effort. Summary of what the big story is used to identify strengths and weaknesses. That's all this one does. Right? So specialization, this one is specialized on strengths and weaknesses. So resource audit tells us that this is how to analyze strengths and weaknesses. Look at the tangible strengths and the intangible and the tangible resources and the intangible resources an organization or enterprise has, right? Tangible resources may be something like physical resources, maybe buildings, maybe rental apartment, those kind of things. Financial resources, human resources, so tangible things you can touch. Then intangible resources will be know-how and reputation. So their knowledge, the level of skill and knowledge in the organization or the reputation of the organization, you can't touch those things, right? So resource audit is telling you that those are the things you should base your questions on. So you can now go to the brainstorming meeting and say, okay, first, what are our physical resources? Right? And they will tell you, okay, we have a building, we have land, we have stock, we have inventory, stuff like that. Right? And you document those as strength. What are our financial resources? Right? What are our financial resources? Maybe we have this amount of money in the bank, or we have this good relationship with this, manager, and he has promised that he can give us $10 million if we need it. Right? Those are financial resources that are accessible to us. Right? So physical resources, land, building, equipment that we have. Human resources, or in this case, human resources may be our employees, right? Are they permanent employees? Or are they temporary employees? Right? Are they committed to us? Or are they just not really serious, lackadaisical about working with us? Are they excited? So those are human resources. Then you look at the reputation of the organization. What is the reputation of this organization? Right? How are we perceived externally in the marketplace? Do we have a good reputation? Do people like us? Then what is the know-how? What is the level of knowledge and skill that our employees have? Right? So in this case, you'll be looking at the information that the organization holds, right? And how that information is used to support the organization's work. So it doesn't necessarily have to be knowledge in the head of people. It may even be knowledge in databases, right? Knowledge in data repositories that the organization can analyze to solve problem. So that's why it's put generally. Right? But for the sake of simplicity, look at it as knowledge in people's heads, in the heads of your employees, that this level of skill that can help resolve problems. Right? So using this template, using this guideline, you can trace out the strengths and weaknesses of an organization or an enterprise. An example will be, you can say, okay, what are our physical assets or resources that we have? And they'll say, oh, land, we don't have land. Okay, do we have buildings? Say, no, this organization doesn't have any building. Offices are leased. Do we have any equipment? They'll say, each employee has a company laptop. You write it down, right? Do we have any supporting equipment? You say, oh, there are 2 printers, there are 2 projectors available to use when necessary. You write those down. Right? So you are documenting what you see as strength there, what we have. Then you move to financial resources, and you say, okay, what are our financial assets? What are the financial resources available to us, either currently or potentially available? And you record those. Are they debts? Because again, you are trying to figure out weaknesses and strengths, right? So are there debts we owe or that we will soon owe? You record those as weaknesses. Then you look at human, right? How many staff do we have? How many of them are temporary staff? How many of them are permanent staff? Are they motivated? You recall those. If they are motivated, that is strength. If they are demotivated or uninspired, that's weakness. You recall those as weaknesses, right? What is the reputation of the organization? So using this guideline, you can ask the right questions in your brainstorming session. You can ask your stakeholders the right questions and get the right responses to make sure you are covering everything you should cover when it comes to strengths and weaknesses. So this is a good tool to use for identifying internal capabilities. Okay. After internal capabilities, you now have to look at the external environment. And one strategy, one technique that you can use to identify external factors that may be affecting the enterprise. So external factors that the enterprise does not necessarily have power over, but are affecting it, is what we call PESTLE. So PESTLE. And I will explain what PESTLE means now. It's just an acronym. Sometimes some people will add E to PESTLE and then change the organization of the letters to form what is called STIPLE. That E is just means ethical. So each alphabet here means something. So PESTLE is an acronym. It's used to look at external factors affecting an enterprise, right, that may either prevent it or help it achieve future state. So what PESTLE will give you is your opportunities and threats. It will help you identify your opportunities and threats. Now, the internal one helps you identify strengths and weaknesses. So resource audit will do that for you, strengths and weaknesses. External environment techniques like PESTLE will help you identify opportunities and threats. So let's see the meaning of each of those alphabets. So I use this STIPLE here, which is just PESTLE reorganized, right? So S will stand for social. T is technology. So this may be social, cultural, if you want. It just means people, the culture, right? The culture of the environment where you are doing business and how it may be affecting your business or your enterprise. So technological concerns, economic issues that are arising, environmental issues. So it may be environmental pollution, it may be new policies, political issues, legal issues, ethical issues. Right. So this forms your PESTLE. The main name for this technique is called PESTLE, but there are different variations. So people added E, ethical issues. So if there are ethical issues that may be causing a problem, you can call it STIPLE then. Some people just focus on PEST, political, maybe economical, legal, and technological issues. So they call that one PEST. Just part of the PESTLE. Some focus on what they call PEST-lite, or if you want, PESTLed. Now, the I here just means international. Maybe the organization is operating internationally and you want to make sure you cover those issues, right? So you use this PESTLed international. Right? So the goal here is not focusing too much on what the meaning, the specific meaning of each of these terms, what it is, right, or what they are. What you are focused on is using these terms to guide how you elicit requirements or how you identify issues. So you know that this thing is just a framework, like a template. So it's telling you that check if there are social issues, right? Maybe what you assign to social may be even something that has something to do with technical. It doesn't matter, right? It's just a guideline just for you to identify the issues. Right? So check if there are social issues, check if there are technological or technical issues affecting the organization. Right? Check if there are what's it called, economic or environmental issues affecting the organization. So we're essentially just looking for factors that are outside the sphere of influence of an organization. So outside our control, outside the organization's control, and that can have some level of impact on it. Okay. The goal at this point is not to identify a course of action for the organization or enterprise. You are not identifying solution. You're just using this thing to trace out the problems, either by asking people, are there any socio-cultural issues that you feel will affect this organization? Maybe in your brainstorming session, right? You can ask that kind of question. Are there any socio-cultural issues? Are there any technological issues? So this is just a guideline. We're not saying you should start coming up with solution here, which is the mistake many amateur BBBAs do, right? They start coming up with solutions at this point or identifying line of action. Okay, we can resolve those socio-cultural issues by educating people more. No, that's not the issue here. That's not what you are doing. We just want to identify the socio-cultural issues. We want to identify the technological issues or the economic issues and all that. Okay? Okay? Any question? Any question? So let me reemphasize. If you mistakenly or misassign an issue as legal when it's supposed to be political, it doesn't matter. This is just a guideline for you to tease out issues, for you to help you figure out what you should be talking about and what you should even be asking. So nobody cares where you assign anything, that it has to be perfect assignment, because all these things will still go into our SWOT analysis, into those boxes as opportunities and threats. That's where you should not make a mistake, right? Don't go and put an opportunity as a threat, right? But how you come about those things, it doesn't matter. This is just a guideline that you should know that, okay, there may be maybe steeple may be very, maybe a good match for this issue you are addressing, or it's just the original pestle, or it's just pest, meaning that there may be political, environmental, or economic, socio-cultural, or technological issues that are affecting this thing we want to solve, right? And you need to tease those things out. All these things, again, remember, they are external to the organization, outside the organization, or affecting it, either causing threats or creating opportunities for it. Another way to identify external factors that may be affecting an enterprise is what we call Porter's 5 forces of competition. Porter's 5 forces. So this is named after Porter, an Harvard professor. He's probably retired now. He did the work in the 70s, I think. He came up with these 5 forces. He identified 5 forces that can affect an organization, or that can determine if a business is worth pursuing or if an enterprise is worth pursuing. Right? So these are forces external, again, to the enterprise. We'll move beyond internal since pestle is external. Porter also looks at external forces. And many of us that have done something in management will be familiar with Porter's, I think it's Michael Porter's 5 forces. We're familiar with it. What Michael Porter, or let me, for safety, in case I'm getting the first name wrong, what he came up with is that one factor that can affect whether an enterprise does well is the intensity of rivalry among existing competitors. So in that field of business, maybe you just want to start a new business, right? or you are already doing business in an area, are there plenty competitors, and how intense is the rivalry between them? Is it that the rivalry is so steep that some competitors are willing to hurt themselves, slash down price to the barest minimum just to hurt you? Right. So you look at the intensity of competition, the intensity of rivalry among competitors. So that's one factor that you should consider. The threat of new entrants. How easy it is, or how easy is it for new people to enter this line of business or to start this product? So if it's very easy, that means the threat of new entrants is high. So you should be careful about those kinds of businesses. So you use all these factors to assess an enterprise or something you want to do, to figure out if it's worth pursuing or not. Another one is bargaining power of customers. Do you have very few customers buying all the things you are making? If you have very few customers buying it, that means they have a lot of power, because if they don't buy, no one else will buy. So the customers can bargain at any rate they want. They can bring your price down, they can bring it up, they can make you lose, and you don't have a choice, right? Because they are the only ones buying. So if you have very few customers buying a lot of your stuff, that may be problematic. Threat of substitutes. Are they substitute products? Are they products that people can use instead of your product? So you have to consider that. Bargaining power of suppliers. Do you have very few people supplying the raw materials that you are using for your product? If you have very few people supplying the raw materials, then those few people can set the price. They can increase their price or reduce the quantity or reduce the quality of raw materials they are providing to you. And you don't have any choice, because they are the only ones producing that item or thing that you need. Right? So Porter is saying this is another way to assess the external environment. Many CEOs and big business people, entrepreneurs, they use this to assess a business venture before going in. Right? You want to start a new business, you start asking yourself, if you know these Porter's 5 forces, right? How easy is it for people to get into this business? For example, I heard one guy, I can't remember, maybe it was on the radio or something, but it was a Nigerian guy that claimed to have studied in the US and was very knowledgeable and experienced. And he was talking, I think it was an interview, and he was complaining about how Nigerians don't have original ideas, that he started a business. And he was saying this thing with so much emotion, right? He was emoting seriously. He said he started a business. What was the business he started? I think it said it was smoothie business. And before you know it, many people have jumped into the business. Now it's saturated. They don't have any original idea. They just stole his idea. So they started asking him, what did he take to do the business, to start it? He said he bought a machine from maybe China. The machine is 120,000 naira. And then he put it in, that he just looked at this big mall or something, and there wasn't anything like that. So he just got a small stall and he put the machine there and he hired someone. And the thing was doing well. He was making a lot of money. But before he opened his eyes, some weeks later, somebody else opened another one next to him. Another one opened 3 shops away. And the fellow was annoyed. And I started wondering about, in my mind, I started thinking that, did this fellow really do enough analysis before jumping into this business? You're doing this business. Did you consider the threat of new entrant? How easy is it for people to get into this business? 120,000 is not a problem. Many people can afford that. Many people can hire staff, right? They can come and buy your smoothie and see how you are making it and go and do the same thing. They can check online on YouTube. So there's really nothing protecting you, nothing proprietary about this business, nothing special. So don't be surprised that people will jump into it if you are making money. If you spend 120,000 and you are making over 100,000 per month, as you claim, or something in that space, right? Something outrageous there. You're making good money and people are seeing you. Wouldn't it be stupid if they don't join in the party? They are entrepreneurs after all. They are investors. People want to make money, right? So you can use this strategy to evaluate external things that can affect your business. You can use it to check if a venture is worth going into, right? So assessing threat of new entrants may involve looking at things like the time and cost of entry. How long will it take for somebody else to enter this business? What is the cost? If he had said the initial investment for the machine was 120 million naira or dollars, now you are talking. That would be difficult for people to jump in. But you say 120,000 naira, and you are complaining. Right? Does the thing require specialists? Does the venture require specialist knowledge? Does it require specialized knowledge? Do you have economies of scale where maybe you have 5 or 50,000 stores right around the country, that you are the one doing smoothie everywhere, 50,000. So people already know your brand, right? So it's easier for you. You can buy your material in bulk in such a way that it will be difficult for anybody to get the material at that price because you are buying it in bulk, right? So those are some of the things you consider, right? And these are some of the things you will now document. You'll be asking, how is the threat of new entry for this enterprise or this business we want to do? Right? Is it easy for people to jump in or is it difficult? How is the competition like? Do we have very calm competitors or are they hot-blooded competitors that want to drive themselves down to the ground if possible? Right? So how many competitors do we have, for example? What are the differences in the quality of things we are producing? So these things may come up as opportunities for you to explore. So are there differences in quality? Maybe if I differentiated myself, right, my product, maybe if I made mine extra special, extra good, that would be a differentiating factor that will set me apart from my competitors, right? So maybe threat of entry is good for you in your business. Supplier power is good. You have plenty of suppliers, so nobody can hold you to ransom with raw materials that you need. Maybe other things are good, but it's just competitive rivalry that is a problem. Then you know you have to distinguish yourself. You have to differentiate your product. That may be the threat you have, and that may also be an opportunity, right? Because you will now go back and analyze later, not now. Now you are just collecting data using these Potter's 5 forces to collect data, to ask questions from maybe the stakeholders in the brainstorming session. That how are our competitors like? Do we have plenty competitors? What differentiates our product from our competitors, right? So you're just using this to act as a guideline on questions to ask. After you get all the responses, you will now go and put this in your SWOT analysis table, right? So your PESTLE will help you fill this place, your opportunities and threats. Or Potter's 5 forces can help you fill this place. In fact, in some cases, so you will be the one to know which one aligns more with what you want, right? If it's more of a businessy situation where economics and all those kind of things matter, then you may want to be looking at who are our competitors and all that. So it makes sense to go with Potter's 5 forces. If it's something where you may be looking at the political environment, legal implications, socio-cultural issues, then it may make sense to just use PESTLE. In some cases, you may combine both to make sure you cover every threat and every opportunity that the organization wants you to cover in your SWOT analysis. So you are using all these different techniques to create or to do your SWOT analysis, to fill in this blank. So you may hold several brainstorming sessions. It may not be one. So one brainstorming session to get strengths and weaknesses using maybe the revenue, the resource audit that we talked about. Then you may do another one, right? Another brainstorming session for opportunities and threats using PESO or Porter's 5 forces. Right. And so you ask questions and you get all this information and use it to fill your SWOT analysis. Now, all this is just a way to do even better work. If you are that BA that ends up in a strategy place and you really like it and you want to be working in that strategy environment, right? You can make it simple. Just take the SWOT table, do brainstorming session, ask them generic questions and fill the place up. And that may be enough for your project. But for some cases where maybe you need to go advanced, at least you now know that you can apply other techniques to even help you drill down as guidelines, right? To help you drill down and cover all your bases so that there will be nothing left out. Nobody can come and say you didn't talk about anything, right? Because you covered everything. You even use other techniques that are big techniques in their own right to investigate all the parts of your SWOT. Okay. So after you have gotten all those boxes filled up, you now use the SWOT as a means of evaluating the organization's business situation and identifying potential strategies for the future. So you use the SWOT. All you are doing is trying to fill up the SWOT. And at that point, you are not trying to evaluate, you are not trying to analyze, you are not trying to come up with solutions. You're just filling up the boxes. After you have done that, you now use that SWOT itself as an instrument to evaluate the business situation. And then you start analyzing each box in the SWOT to come up with potential strategies. So the SWOT is your main tool. The others are just supporting tools if you do the advanced one. So using the SWOT, you can identify new ventures or improvements that have been made possible by, say, the opportunities you identified, right? So you have gotten opportunities, you have filled up that space. You can now start looking at that opportunity and say, okay, based on this opportunity, what direction can we take our business? Or what improvement can we do to our product based on these opportunities? Right? Using SWOT, you can identify the business issues, right? You can identify business issues based on the threats, right, that you have documented. You can start looking at that. Oh, based on this threat, these are the business issues we may face. You can come up with actions, right, that are required to address those threats based on your SWOT analysis, right? So you are just looking at each of those boxes and using the box, using the threat alone, you can start thinking of actions. So how do we address these threats to improve our prospect? You can identify areas of strength just by looking at your weaknesses, right? Right? Areas that need strengthening by analyzing the weaknesses, by looking at the weaknesses, right? And at the end of the day, you can develop a strategy to help you get to your future state just by looking at the different sectors of your SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Okay. So this brings us to the end of assessing capability gap. This is a good place to stop. Tomorrow, we'll round up strategy analysis. So we'll talk about these three tomorrow. Determine solution approach. It's going to be very short. Define solution scope and defining the business case. That's what's remaining. These are the critical activities, these two. After you have done these two, next is just to choose how you want to solve the problem, the approach you want to take. It's very straightforward. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Then you create boundaries for the solution, saying this is exactly what our solution will do. This is what it won't do. Then you document everything in a business case, including your SWOT analysis. You put it there and all that, and that's it. You take this document and you make recommendation to the C-suite executive or the leaders of your organization, and they approve. And then you go ahead and project has started. So we'll talk about this tomorrow and we'll round off strategy analysis. Any questions? Any question? Okay. Andrew said no. Abolore, are you still there? I know it's late at your end.
Yes,
Yeah. Do you have any questions?
no.
Okay. Taiwo, do you have any questions?
No questions. No questions for now.
Okay. Laura, any question?
No questions, sir.
Okay. Winnie, any question? So Andrew already said no questions, but Winnie, do you have any question? Okay, so all these are clear, right? You can use the shortcut, just put the SWOT analysis up there, ask questions, fill it in, fill the boxes, and you're good. Or if you need to, you can step it up to the advanced one. Now you know the advanced one, which most people unfortunately don't know how to do, right? You know that now, you can keep that somewhere. If you ever end up in this space where you are leading a business analysis team or a product department, right? You can ask your people under you to take on each of these small sub techniques, PESTLE and all that, go and do work on it, then use that to populate the SWOT analysis, and you get the best SWOT analysis possible where you have covered everything. So you now have these two tools, right? And you now know how to do SWOT analysis and do it very well. Okay. So in your CV, you can now write under techniques you can use. You can write SWOT analysis. I can do SWOT analysis.